AI is reshaping businesses, and ignoring it could leave your industry disrupted. I'm Rajan, and this is Pivotal Clarity. We talk to those building or using AI, founders and engineers with real world experience. Our aim is to cut through the hype and see where AI is truly making an impact. If you're a business or following tech trends, these conversations offer clearer insight than most of the press. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to Pivotal Clarity, an AI podcast. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Erika Anderson, co-founder and chief customer officer of Storytell.ai. At Storytell, Erika brings in the aspect of how do we bring in humane part to AI, and that is what we are going to explore today. Before Storytell, Erika was a writer, and she was helping writers become better. With AI, most people are thinking about what happens when AI is going to replace, but that's not what Erika is focusing on. She's trying to help writers become better with AI rather than getting replaced by AI. Erika, welcome to the show.
Yeah, really, really happy to be here. And I think this intersection of humane technology and AI is really rich and something that I think we should all be paying attention to.
Erika, as I get started, I want to ask you, what is your favorite AI tool? What do you use the most?
I know this is it might sound horrible. I actually use our own tool the most.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
You know,
And why is that your favorite tool?
Well, I think in terms of breaking down silos, speeding up my own productivity, editing my own writing, as a writer, I find that AI is just this incredible constructive editorial tool. And at the end result is still something I've written. It's my idea, it's my IP. And just like you could have a editor at a book publishing company or a ghostwriter, at the end of the day, it's still your work. And so that's something I use all the time. But, for follow-up calls or follow-up emails after a call with a customer, to understand the pain points in our product, across all our customer calls. And even preparing for this podcast, I just dropped all of the questions in our product to get its take as well. It's not replacing my thought, but it is a partner and a Kickstarter.
So how would you explain Storyteller to someone who's not been familiar about Storytell?
The way I speak to it is that we help tell the stories of your unstructured data. We have just a mountain of unstructured data at any company, meeting notes, videos, audio, etc. That's about 80% of what's, in any company. 80% of the data is unstructured. And before generative AI, it's like a lump of coal. You just can't get anything from it. It's like, what's more valuable than a meeting? And yet, usually there's this total fall off. Like, wait, what were the action items? Where do we go from here? It's such expensive, precious time, especially when it's with a customer. And using our product to gain all of the value, get every thread of gold from what can just look like something that's inscrutable. How do I understand all of this at once? And teams, there's so many use cases for it. So it is more of a horizontal platform play from our end, to just take everything that's stuck in these data swamps, essentially, and just get the knowledge from it, extract that knowledge in order to thought partner, create strategy, create adoption plans, create PRDs, et cetera. There's so many things you can create with it.
So when customers pick a Storytell, do they don't have like a precedence, or are there like, what are you replacing?
I think sometimes we're replacing Gong or Zoom AI, or even, and this might sound crazy, but Microsoft Copilot, as it's not that they still have it, but in terms of really being able to interact with a subset of data, or with essentially like creating a brain of the organization, through this knowledge base that you have in Storytell. What I hear from our customers is they're just not able to do that in Microsoft Copilot in the same way. Maybe they're doing one-off things with Copilot, but they really have this opportunity to access like a breadth and depth of knowledge with our tool.
What's the backstory? What was the insight that led you to found Storytell?
Well, it goes back to your introduction, where I was running a founder community and also passionate about supporting founders, and was also running a content business for founders. In that, okay, every business is a content producing business at this day and age. You have to show thought leadership, and yet where's the time to do that? And so I was running a team of writers, and it was really hard for founders to make the time to even edit or look at the content we'd created for them, and much harder to get on a call for an interview or something like that. And so as I saw the wave of generative AI coming with the Da Vinci 2 model back when it was OpenAI's playground, and I was also thinking about the fact that we record everything now, with Otter or Zoom or what have you. We have all those meeting recordings. And so I just thought, wait a minute, I see this over here, no time to bring forward the amazing things these founders are doing in their businesses. And then all these recordings of the amazing things they're doing in their businesses. So I thought, okay, we can use generative AI to bring that to light without creating extra work. So often marketing is making low fidelity output of what the company's doing. And the engineers look at that and they're like, that's not really what we're doing. Like, marketing doesn't actually understand what we're doing. And versus just using the meetings with the engineers to really describe with great fidelity and technical clarity what companies are creating. So it started from that standpoint of thought leadership and supporting and enhancing thought leadership, and then moved into, well, if you can do it for that, what can't you use it on, essentially?
So usually in startups, timing plays a very important role. So how did you think about the timing question for Storytell?
I agree. I really admire Clint Sharp of Cribble says, and I think he's quoting someone else, but it's a combination of luck, timing, and brilliance in that order. When you are successful, and we are pre-seed, we're very early stage startup still, and I would say it was incredible to jump into the playground and start to understand how to use generative AI before ChatGPT came out. So we got our angel funding a month or so before ChatGPT came out. So I would say lucky in our timing.
You've talked about something called as clean communication framework. Can you tell a little bit about that?
I am really interested in how we interact with each other. I think often in my 20s and 30s, as I would interview for roles, I'd ask, well, how do you deal with conflict? And a lot of people say, well, like, what conflict? No such thing. You have to watch out for people who say that. And so just simply having frameworks. So there are going to be misunderstandings. Of course there are. That is normal. That's expected. So how do we plan for that? And I have given myself what I call like an informal PhD in communication, just taken so many trainings and given so many trainings. And I took everything that I learned into this umbrella framework of clean communication. So this is how we give feedback. This is how to kind of position yourself to receive feedback. This is how we go about checking something out in a meeting with something seems off. I'm not sure what it is. And we bring that into our performance management. We bring that into our all hands, into our offsites, etc. so that there's not just this, I don't know, miasma of like what happens there when the humans, have a like, I don't know. You can see me moving my hands, but they bump into each other, right? And those bumps, like people can leave companies over that, and it's not necessary. We have to find ways to reduce the cost of conflict because it can be very, very expensive.
Is this similar to crucial conversation?
I would say, yeah, there is. Yes, I've read that. There's difficult conversations. There's so many amazing books in the space. So I think that has a lot to do with it. Radical Candor is an incredible resource within that. I just see many things, fitting together in that space. The hard thing is to live it. So if it's just a book with a lot of ideas, that's nice. How do you make it actionable? You do that with frameworks. You teach the frameworks. You use the frameworks.
In your view, what does humane technology mean? I know there's a lot of discussion about it, but I'd love to know your view on that.
I think it's really about retaining the best parts of our humanity because of technology instead of in spite of it. Um, and it's interesting because I do see this interplay of clean communication with humane technology. It's almost like a subset because, as you know, I run a monthly meetup for folks in the Bay Area. It's often product leaders who attend on humane technology, and we're looking at, okay, look at these harms around big tech or social media, and how could we mitigate those? And let's be like really in the realm of possibility of what we can do, as opposed to like, no, that's just how it is. But like humans build technology. So humans can build it in a way that serves humanity, as opposed to numbing us out or, getting addicted to different apps, etc. And I think to boil it down very simply, something we can all ask ourselves is, how am I feeling while I'm using this product? And how do I feel after I use it? Whether that's TikTok, Instagram, or a B2B SaaS platform. Sometimes the answer is not great, right? Or and sometimes like, oh my God, that was incredible. I got to a great outcome, and I loved my experience of using this product. It really felt like it understood me, it supported me, and I think that's the ideal. That's what we all want to shoot for when we're building products.
In early stage startups, Erika, I'm always curious about surprises. They teach you deep insights. What are surprises that you found along your way?
I think I've had, it's interesting because what we love to see is magical moments for our customers. And so there've been plenty of those, and really having customers teach us how to use our own product. Like, we have a product manager, his name is Steven, and he's one of our customers. And he, we have gone through so many iterations of Storytell. We started with a Slack bot, we moved to a Chrome extension, and then to a web application. And then this idea of like a virtual me, just like how many shots on goal can you have? Like how many experiments can you have? And Stephen took this virtual me idea and was like, wait, no, I don't care about myself. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to create like data containers for each of my customers and then customers as a whole. So I want to have virtual experiences with my customers and glean all the information I can from all our meeting notes, all our meeting recordings, transcripts, etc. And found like a new, business opportunity based on that. So we use it that way internally now, and we like change the direction of our product based on how he was using it.
So most of the AI or startup world is actually co-founded by engineers or deeply tech people. You come from a writing background and a non-tech background. So when you are like building this AI company, what are the differences that you are seeing, and what is the unique flavor that you are bringing?
It's interesting. I was recently, there's this organization called the New Club for women engineers and women in AI. And I went to one of their events, and so many of the women there had changed careers. They were photographers, they were midwives, so many different things. And I think, as I saw the wave coming, I was like, how can we build AI with integrity? What does that mean? And I'm still holding that question. And that's really led to this interest and passion for humane technology, this intersection of humanity and technology. And so I think if I weren't at Storytell, it's quite possible that wouldn't be so much of the conversation at our company. There's so much about building a company. It's like it's humans. You've got to be good at humans. You've got to be able to build a product. That if you can't do that, you don't have a company. But if you don't know how to interact with each other, it gets very messy very quickly, just even with two people. And so I think that's, I don't know, created a lot of hope, enthusiasm, excitement, and probably most of all meaning. When there's often like some uh, tears of relief at offsites for like, oh, I've never been at a company where someone's actually cared before. I'm an engineer, I'm just a doer. And you just want to extract my time, you want deliverables from me. Um, and like, no, you want to know what was going on inside me in this moment. And it's a first for most people. So that feels really integral to our like special sauce at Storytell, you know, um, and how we're building our company.
Oh, that's powerful. You add the care part in it.
Yeah, which is like, it's not that people don't have that. It's just how do you bring it forward? It's there. It just has to be welcomed forward.
What's something that is very obvious to you in AI and productivity that most people miss?
I don't know if it's most people, but the thing that pops up for me is we talk about this relationship with AI as a continuum from, okay, are you AI avoidant of like, no way, a Terminator, AI cautious. Okay, I'll play with a little bit. AI curious, like, okay, I'm on board. I'm interested. I'm not a power user. Or are you just like using it every day? You're an AI enthusiast. And what it's really helpful to know what perspective people are coming from. And what I find really, really interesting and curious is you've got the AI enthusiasts like finding new ways to use AI every day, and we're teaching each other. And then, I'm using it to customize my proposals. And now I'm like more than half of my deals are going through. That's an incredible outcome. And then there's people saying like, well, this was misspelled, so this doesn't work. Like I can do meeting notes on my own. I'm fine. Or, I was trying to look up football stats from last weekend. It didn't have it, so it doesn't work. And so it's like just not an understanding of how LLMs work and that there's training data and it's not just Google. But there's also, how do you reconcile the fact that there's a minority of people who are getting insane value from AI? And then there's people who are saying, no, nope, doesn't work. It's like, what I'd love, we all get to be where we are. That's okay. But what I'd love is for the folks who are saying, no, AI doesn't work, like if they could just see the perspective they're coming from and just acknowledge that, like, that's okay. I'm in an AI cautious place. I'm not ready yet. At one point in life, I do a lot of yoga. I wasn't ready to do handstands, and then I was. But it's not like handstands don't work.
That's a great way to explain that. So, in terms of things that don't work, and it's some things work for some folks, some things don't work for somebody. Is that like really segmenting them into the outlook that they have, the point of view that they have, or the attitude that they have, or is it something more than just their perspective that makes things work or not work?
That's a great question. And part of it is the perspective for sure. Um, but part of it, at least my theory around it, is how much pain are you in? If you do 2 meetings a month, maybe that's not going to be a super interesting use case for AI. But if you're in meetings all day long and you need to, you're a TPM or a CSM, you have to do follow up emails for everyone you are in calls with, you're going to want AI. Like you needed it 5 years ago. And so that's where that concept of like, oh, if this person's like, no, it has to be 1,000% perfect, otherwise I want nothing to do with it. The supposition I make is, oh, that person isn't actually in enough pain. That I don't know if that's true all the time, but that's been my takeaway.
Other than that, are there things that those who are able to make AI work are able to do compared to others, other than just the attitude, point of view, or maybe even that there is a trigger for pain right now? Is there anything else that they do, any ecosystem that they are part of, that are like useful conditions for them to make AI work for them?
I think there's something about coming with this attitude of curiosity that then the world is your oyster. You can do anything. One of our users was saying, you know, like, knock, knock, hey, AI, are you awake? Like, oh, how could I use AI for this? How could I use it for that? I'm writing some code. I barely know how to write code. Or I did it 20 years ago, and I'm going to build an application just using AI. And so I'd say there's almost no limits when you're coming from a place of curiosity versus lots of limits. So I think we just can't always see the box that we're inside.
What is something that you wish, that you know now, that you wish someone had told you when you started?
I think, what I feel is really important for co-founders, because you're wearing so many hats. And in the beginning, it's just you and your co-founder or co-founders, is what does great look like for each function? And what are the questions that you would want answers to that would help you know what great looks like? Like how to speak cross functionally. Some people have that skill probably honed, and a lot of us don't, when we just haven't had that experience. It's really normal to not know that. And like, hey, when customer success looks great, this is what you're going to get. And engineering, these are the questions you should be asking. Like, how are we customers of each other? And what should we be able to provide to each other? What's a reasonable expectation?
Erika, this one is going to be the last question. What is something that you feel people are getting wrong about AI completely?
I think the fear of AI is this, replacement. It's here to replace us. And I think it's an incredible augmenter and enhancer. And it could mean that there is change. We really believe AI isn't replacing jobs; it's replacing parts of every job. And when you come from, if you can move your standpoint there of like, okay, it's here to enhance. Like, how can I become not just an AI enthusiast, but an AI adventurer? And I think that's how we can really ride this wave from a place of joy, curiosity. We're endlessly like looking under things to find more of what AI could help us be. I think if we're resisting, it's not that we shouldn't have guardrails or regulation. It's not about that. But just in terms of, how can I use this today? How could I use this a year from now, 5 years? This is all changing so, so quickly. And how can I ride? It's something like turning into the wave. How do I lean into the wave as opposed to this doesn't work?
Erika, thank you so much. Well,
Yeah,
it was wonderful talking to you. Thank you for joining the show.
yeah, my pleasure.
That's it for this episode of Pivotal Clarity. This is an Opeka podcast. Opeka is an accelerator for global Indian founders building AI software companies. We're exploring the fast changing world of AI together with our listeners. If you like this podcast, you can find more on our website and other popular podcast apps. Subscribe if you want to keep up.